Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be doing our NFC South preview and prediction video. So we've already done all of the divisions in the AFC. We did the NFC East, NFC North. Make sure you check both of those out, or check all of those out actually. But today we're going to be looking at the NFC South real quick before we get started, just how we do things. We're going to look at every single team in this division, predict their whole schedule, and then talk about what playoff seeding they would get or what I'm predicting they're going to get. We are going to have a video up on the channel, I think Wednesday, about, based on these predictions, my playoff predictions, and who's going to win the Super Bowl. So stay tuned for that. Not only do we do NFL, though, we do college football, college basketball, NBA, MLB. I know recently it's been a lot of NFL. That's just because the season's starting up. We are going to have a college football video dropping tomorrow. Make sure you check that out. And then we're going to have our NFC West prediction dropping later today. I apologize if you can hear my voice. I'm a little sick right now, so... Luckily, I pre-recorded a lot of these videos, but we did have to come back and do these both. But I am a little sick, so I'm sorry if you can hear it in my voice. Real quick, though, links in the description, as always. Discord, X, Twitch, TikTok, follow all those, join those. And subscribe to the channel if you're new, turn on the noties, like this video if you enjoyed. With all that being said, though, let's just jump right in to these predictions. And with no surprise, I think... the bottom team in the NFC South is going to be Panthers. We're going to work from bottom to top here. But yeah, I think the Panthers are going to get last. I mean, just looking at this team, there's not much here. You know, they bring in Deontay Johnson, still have Adam Thielen. But, there's really nothing to get excited about. I guess Bryce Young in his second year, that could be a little interesting. We'll see how he plays. I'm really not expecting much from him. I really wasn't high on him coming out of the draft. I thought C.J. Stroud would be better than him. He definitely is. I just wasn't a fan of his when coming out of the draft, but he could definitely make some noise. But looking at this roster, there's not much to be excited about besides him. But looking at their schedule, I don't think they beat the Saints week 1, unfortunately. I think they're going to lose to the Chargers. I think Herbert's just too much for their defense to handle. I don't think they go into Vegas and win that game. I think the Bengals are just way too talented, just by far the better team here. In Chicago against the Bears, I think the Bears are going to be a pretty solid team this year. I think the Bears win that one. I think home against the Falcons, I think the Falcons will win. I'm very high in the Falcons this year. We'll get to them in a little bit. At the Commanders and at the Broncos, 2 winnable games, but I feel like they lose both of them just because with them being on the road, in the altitude against Denver, Commanders have actually a pretty solid team surrounding Jaden Daniels. Very good defense. I don't think the Panthers have enough there. I do think they get 2 wins here, though. This nice little 2-game stretch, a home stretch here. Going into the bye, I think they can beat the Saints. I think the Saints aren't anything special this year behind Derek Carr. And I think the Giants, that's definitely a winnable game. I'm not too high on the Giants at all. I think home against the Chiefs, though, that's going to be a loss. I think home against the Bucks, I think they win. I think they can win some of these division games. I feel like the NFC South division games are always kind of close. So I feel like they'll beat the Bucks here at home. But I think at the Eagles, that's a loss. I think the Cowboys coming to town, that's a loss. I think the Cardinals get the job done. I don't think they sweep the Bucks, and I think the Falcons on the road, they'll be fighting for seeding here. I think the Falcons do win that game. So I have them going 3-14. Very, not a good season once again. But hey, there's some other teams that are 3-14. I had the Broncos, the Patriots. I forget what I had the Giants. I might have had the Giants going 3-14. I don't remember, but they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. To plain and simple, I think that's pretty obvious. But moving on to our next team here, team I think that will get third in this division. I think it's the Saints. The Saints still have a talented team. They still got some guys. They still have Cam Jordan on the defense. The defense is solid. Nothing crazy. Same with the offense. They're kind of just a mid-average team here, a little bit below average in my opinion. Derek Carr really, I feel like, is holding this team back, because their offensive line's solid. They still got Kamara. They still have Chris Olave. Like I said, they have some guys that's just Derek Carr. How good can he really be? What's his really ceiling, I guess you could say? Because, in my opinion, it's not high at all. I mean, his floor isn't crazy low, but he's not going to go out and win you a game, and you kind of need that because this roster isn't like a Niners roster where that's like okay, because Brock Purdy isn't going to go out there and win them the game, but he's good enough to get the job done and do what they need him to do. And just because the fact that the roster is probably the best in the league, that's fine. But with this team, you can't really have that. But I do think they'll win some games. So looking at their schedule, I think they beat the Panthers week 1. I think on the road against Dallas, that's going to be a loss, unfortunately. I think the Eagles come to town and they beat them. I think the Falcons and the Chiefs on the road, that's going to be 2 losses for me. They have a tough opening schedule here. But coming out of this tough stretch, I think they'll beat the Bucks at home. I feel like they always split with the Bucks. There wasn't a barn burner. Home against the Broncos, I think that's a win. I'm not too high on the Broncos this year. I think on the road against the Chargers, I think that'll be a loss. I think Herbert is going to have some games where he just takes over and gets it done, even though the team's not great around him. I think on the road against the Panthers, I do think that'll be a loss. I think the Panthers are going to win. They're not going to lose every game. I think home against the Falcons, that'll be a loss. I think the Falcons are just too good here. I think, though, coming out of this 3-game losing streak, can I see them losing 4 in a row going into the bye? I think they'll beat the Browns. The Browns are a team that I actually am pretty high on, so I think they beat the Browns. And maybe they get a little hot here coming out of the bye, because I think they beat the Rams. I feel like just coming out of the bye, they get the week to prepare. I feel like the Saints can make some upsets happen this year. They're not by any means a horrible team. There's not anything crazy. So I have them beating the Browns and the Rams, but I do have them losing at the Giants. I feel like they're going to be a team where they're going to beat some teams they shouldn't and lose to teams they shouldn't. Because I have them losing to the Panthers, the Chargers, the Giants, but I also have them beating, the Bucks. I think will be solid. The Browns, the Rams. But I think they lose against the Giants. I think they'll beat the Commanders at home, though. I think on the road in Lambeau at this time of year, Monday night, I think the Packers get that one done. I think they'll beat the Raiders, though, and I do think they'll split with the Bucks. So I think the Bucks will win the home game here to finish out the season. So I have the Saints going 7-10, 2-4 in the division, and like I said, solid season. I don't think they're really expecting much here. I don't think anyone's saying the Saints are going to be a playoff team. I think this is accurate based on their roster, based on really just everything. So I have the Saints going 7-10 here. But moving on to our next team, we're going to look at the Buccaneers. Now, Baker Mayfield really just revitalized his career here last year. With the Bucs, he really just made a name for himself again. He was actually very solid. Rashad White's looking really good. They still got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. The defense is still one of the better in the league. They have a very good D-line, and they have Antoine Winfield still. It's just a pretty solid team all in all when you're looking at it. I think the Bucs will be one of the more average teams this year in terms of, record-wise, team-wise. I feel like they're going to finish around 500 again. They actually have a pretty solid team. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, probably a top 10 defense. Offensively, they have a lot of playmakers. I actually do like this Bucs team a lot. So in looking at their schedule, I think they'll beat the Commanders week 1 at home. At the Lions, that's going to be a loss. I think the Lions are a little bit better than them. But I think they respond with a win over the Broncos, and I think early in the season, I think they get it done over the Eagles. Like I said, I feel like the Bucs, kind of similar to the Saints, just because of how much playmakers they have defensively, offensively. I feel like they're going to win some games that they maybe shouldn't, and lose some games they also shouldn't. So I think they beat the Eagles here. I do think they lose on the road against the Falcons. I think they lose on the road against the Saints, and I do think the Ravens get the job done. But I think the Bucs are good enough to not get swept by the Falcons. So I think they'll beat the Falcons at home here. But on the road in Arrowhead and home against the Niners, that's going to be 2 losses for me. Unfortunately, coming out of the bye, I think they lose against the Giants. Yes, I know. Giants aren't a good team, but I do have them losing here. And I have them losing at the Panthers. Like I said, I feel like the Bucs are going to be a team that wins some games they shouldn't, like this Eagles game, this Falcons game maybe, and lose to some teams that they also shouldn't lose to. So I think they'll beat the Raiders, though. I think they beat the Chargers. I just think they're better than both those teams. On the road against the Cowboys, that's going to be a loss there. But I do have them finishing out the season with 2 solid wins here against the Panthers and the Saints. So I'm going 8-9, 3-3 in the division. And yeah, I just think the Bucks are going to be around 500 once again, competing for a playoff spot, I guess you could say. I mean, I have them finishing out the season 4-1 in their last 5 weeks, so I have them going 4-8 to start out the year, which isn't great, but I do think they'll finish around 500. But I think the clear team that wins this division, I think the clear best team in this division is the Atlanta Falcons. Now, it all really depends on how good is Kirk Cousins coming off the Achilles tear. And that definitely is a concern for me. I mean, they have a loaded roster. I mean, actually, like a very good roster. They bring in Darnell Mooney. Still got Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson going into his second year. Drake London continuing to develop. They have a very good offensive line. Defensively, we haven't even got to the real big moves. Still got Jesse Bates, one of the best safeties in the game. They bring in Justin Simmons, who's another top 5 safety. AJ Terrell's still there, still getting better. They bring in a Pro Bowl linebacker, one of the best in the league, in Matthew Judon. This team's actually very good on paper. But like I said, it really all depends on how Kirk Cousins plays coming off the Achilles tear. And I am interested to see how he does play. I do think the Falcons will be the best team in this division, though. So looking at the schedule, I think they win week 1 against the Steelers. I think if it was in Pittsburgh, I'd probably take the Steelers. At the Eagles, that's going to be a loss. Home against the Chiefs, that's going to be a loss. I think they start out a little slow here the first couple weeks, but I think they pick it up here with wins over the Saints, Bucks, and Panthers. And then I have them beating the Seahawks as well. I think, the fact that this is in Atlanta, I feel like they can match up here. I feel like their defense can slow down the offense, give them a little bit of troubles. So I think they'll win that game. I don't see them winning 5 in a row, though. I think they'll lose against the Bucks. But I do think they beat the Cowboys at home. I feel like the Falcons, like I said, I'm very high on them this season. I think they go into New Orleans and beat the Saints. I think they beat the Broncos. The Falcons have a pretty easy schedule. I mean, it's pretty manageable if you ask me. So I think they beat the Broncos going into the bye. Coming out of the bye, I think they beat the Chargers. I do think the Vikings. I do think the Vikings beat them here. I think the Raiders beat them here too. I feel like they're gonna start out slow, get hot in the middle of the season, and then kind of finish a little bit slow. So I think they lose both these games. Monday night game in Allegiant Stadium. I don't know if I like that. Their odds there. Kirk Cousins in prime time. I know people. That's the age-old thing. The revenge game here. I think the Vikings actually win that one. Home against the Giants, though, that'll be a win. I think at the Commanders, I think late in the season, Jaden Daniels will start to find his stride, and I think the defense for the Commanders will be doing a solid here. So I feel like they have a very underrated defense, but I think they finish out with a win against the Panthers. So I've been going 11-6. Only team from this division making the playoffs. I have them getting in as the 4 seed, and I feel like that's fair. I feel like the Falcons 11-6. Nothing too crazy. I've seen some people saying like 13-4 for them. I think that's a little absurd. I think 11-6 is accurate here for the Falcons. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about my predictions. Let me know what you agree, disagree. I'd love to debate in the comments. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on the noties to make sure you don't miss whenever we post. Like I said, NFC West preview coming later today. College football tomorrow. NFL playoff preseason predictions coming Wednesday. And then probably an MLB video later in the week. With all that being said, though, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Links in the description as always. X, Twitch, TikTok, Discord, follow, join, all of those. We say this every time. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later today with the NFC West prediction and preview video.